Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Deep Roots Solutions. Let's talk about shifting to a healing paradigm. We as an Ummah need a wise and compassionate collaborative approach to healing individuals and communities amongst us who have suffered intense war trauma over decades. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Somalia, Yemen, Chinese Turkestan, Xinjiang. The Uyghur is suffering from a different type of traumatic war experience. And there are more than that. Chechnya, so many more. Actually, we can now see the whole world is the West. And because of a full spectrum attack on us as a deeply interconnected species, let me go back here. So there's a full spectrum attack on humanity as an interconnected species. So devils practice and utilize holistic principles, but invert and subvert them. So the inversion of holistic is totalitarian and authoritarian. It's also supremacist. We're not to be any of those categories. So our Ummah is one body and one soul, but most have not yet remembered that we are one. And many Muslims misunderstand this important fact because of the trap of Muslim exclusivism and Muslim supremacy, which are fallacies. And that's been occurring for a long period of time. This attack is very long-term and spans at least through the colonial era, post-colonial conflicts, World War I, World War II, the Cold War, the 9/11 to COVID period, which I would argue is a long-term black magic, mind control, blood sacrifice ritual. So this means trauma, ending trauma, preventing trauma, and healing trauma should be our long-term goals and ambitions from here on, shifting our paradigm to one of healing and wholeness, utilizing related tools, and behaving ethically and justly, and kindly, compassionately, mercifully, as we are called to do in Quran, Hadith, and in the vast and ancient prophetic tradition, which we find so many survivals of worldwide. After this conflict subsides, which it will according to prophecy, but also according to the reminder of impermanence, as seen in all things fade but the face of truth, as I paraphrase it to make a point. This effort should be a holistic one in nature, with Quranic underpinnings, rooted in healing and whole-making paradigm, and must necessarily take into account individual and communal cleansing and detoxing of bodies, minds, ecosystems, including agricultural lands. These lands are currently polluted with disease-inducing nanotech from the skies, GMOs and sides, meaning killers, such as pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and more. Also, the infrastructures. Do not underestimate the purposeful and inadvertent use of serious toxins hidden within building materials, lighting, wiring, piping, etc., which cause cancers, neurological damage, and more over time, thereby playing a time-release, virtually undetectable and weaponized role. And because of this, making blame placing and legal recourse exceedingly difficult. These examples are why I say that Islam must be 100% ethical, halal, and organic, pure, from here on, to the greatest extent possible, inshallah. We are doomed otherwise. And when Allah brings us through this trial and purification period, it would be utterly irresponsible and sinful to not make this kind of a shift. A prayerful, collaborative effort is a must to do so. To open space for overcoming evil, we must make every effort to become just and merciful. So whatever healing we must each do as a prerequisite must be priority along with survival. Yes, this is intense and challenging, but Allah never gives us more than He has prepared us for, and for which we are capable. In ancient Ashoka-led Hind or Bharat, which are now located in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, in these regions, the Shramanic forest tradition, which included ascetics, philosophers, mystics, hermits, and monastics, both male and female, from numerous traditions, Vedic, Vedantic, Upanishadic, Buddhist, yogic, etc., served as an important societal safety valve over many centuries. So that after massive PTSD-inducing wars of empires like the Maurya, which to a great extent unified South Asia in a warring manner, from Khorasan to Kerala, from Baluchistan to Bengal, the most traumatized men and women could spend as much time as needed living near human communities and interacting with them periodically, but mostly absorbed solitarily or in small groups deeply in nature for contemplation, meditation, prayer, fasting, and various purificatory ascetic exercises, all of which helped them to heal their hearts, their bodies, and their minds from long-term intensive warfare. Once sufficiently healed, they could continue living apart, yet offer beneficial teachings to nearby communities. Or they could choose to return home to families, healed and transformed, to live in the world but not of it, within an enlightened householder context, and thereby infusing their communities with an invigorating influx of healing energy. This model has much benefit within it and can be Islamicized very easily, as was the case during the Islamicizing of Hind centuries ago, whereby jihadis who were psychologically damaged by intensive warring could go to work through their traumas under the guidance of Islamic yogis, the pirs and shiyukh of the Chistiya, the Qadiriya, the Naqshbandiya, and other Turuk, as well as unaffiliated teachers who had healing and contemplation centers in lovely remote areas. I would argue that there is sufficient data to prove that much of what we call Sufism and the orders developed in post-war contexts and played key roles in healing the bodies, minds, and hearts of those broken by what war inevitably does to humans over time. The Ummah is greatly lacking in such healing spaces and modalities at present. But even so, we are on the brink of some beautiful synthesis of healing modalities from both within and outside of the Ummah, inshallah. We as an Ummah must choose this paradigm of healing and wholeness to make use of and benefit from it, and then share its benefit worldwide, as is our destiny from my perspective. This is what I would call deep dawah. Toba means to turn away from unhealthy, toxic thinking, speaking, and behavior. Sin is that which causes tension, rifts, toxicity within various relationships, which can be internal and external or both. So between mind, heart, and body of individuals, think of your own personal internal conflicts you may have faced, or between individuals such as couples and families, or between families, groups, and larger communities, or as we see in the Quran, individuals, groups, and communities in relationship with nature, its creatures and ecosystems. We can very much sin against nature and its diverse, deeply feeling and even thinking species. Jinn and sea and land mammals are examples. We know that our relationship with the healer, the wise, the merciful, the compassionate, the forgiver, the truth, is key to mending us in our broken states, or healing our hearts, minds, and bodies, so that we can participate in communally and collaboratively healing our families, ummahs, ecosystems, and world. To do this, it is absolutely vital that we make Toba in the sense that I am suggesting, and this is closely tied to related issues and practices of Tazkiyah and Hijrah, which must be holistic, thoroughgoing, and comprehensive to be effective. Community healing centers with access to nature, contemplation, space, and masajid could play important roles in this necessary process. If we do not take these things seriously, there is zero chance that we can ever behave justly as we are called to do. We do not want broken, misguided people in positions of armed power, as it is deeply dangerous and destructive. How many armed revolutions had well-intending leaders, but because of individual and collective nefs, because they were strengthened rather than dissolved and purified, massive and often genocidal bloodletting was the end result. And the ones who were claiming to end tyranny became tyrants, as bad or worse than those they replaced. We as Muslims are called to be the gardeners, the guardians, the protectors of the weak and the vulnerable within our realms. And we are called to eliminate all forms of oppression, tyranny, and enslavement, beginning with ourselves. The healing centers could be designed in harmony with nature, incorporating ancient and modern localized materials and designs, including space for community-grown healing plants and food gardens, utilizing gray water for the plants, have water collection and purification points, have teaching and workshop and workspaces to teach healing modalities to use at home with family, gardening, etc., as well as skill sets that people could make an ethical and pure living from. They would also include libraries and healing rooms for various modalities such as rolfing, deep tissue and pressure point massage, acupuncture, energy work, etc. These ideas build on earlier Islamic community center ideas, the Kulyesi, which originally is built on our Nebi's masjid in Medina, peace be upon him. So the Kulyesi model, the masjid is the centerpiece, and libraries, madrasas, Quran and Hadith schools, hospitals, soup kitchens, workshops would be located there, offering to teach skills and trades to those who are in need, and thereby a hand up and not a hand out. Hostels would be there for travelers and more, all in one central location. And you can see hints of this at Istanbul's Suleymaniye and other Sinan masterpieces. They're built in harmony with nature and near local fresh water sources as well. I am attempting to pull a number of disparate threads together here, but the main point is that we have a very psychologically and energetically broken Ummah right now. And we have all the tools available to us to begin the deep healing work, which always begins with the heart. We are on the verge of a new transformational synthesis from what I am seeing. And at its best, the Ummah is brilliant with synthesis. This is what we're born to do, and we have not had a proper synthesis in many hundreds of years, since the last many golden ages. But we're now overdue, and we're coming into it, inshallah. So right now, we're in the darkest part of the night, but after the darkest part of the night comes the dawn. So please consider these. We need to shift to a healing paradigm. This begins with each one of us individually. It begins with our families. It begins with our communities. And it's also collective as an Ummah. And we can lead the way worldwide in this. Remember, Allah does not change the status of a people until we change what is in our hearts. Let's ask Allah to transform our hearts. Let's make hijrah of the heart now, inshallah, and be rectified. Until next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.